Hi guys, and welcome back to SwitchUp. I'm Mark Walker. Remember to subscribe to the channel as we give away a free Nintendo Switch game each and every month. And the developers of the newly released Writhe game have given us 6 copies to give away to you. A few of the words I'm going to say over the next few minutes are going to make some of you instantly switch off, but let me tell you, you need to stick with this review, as I think I may have found one of the most addictive games I've ever played. Rhythm Fighters is a roguelite horizontal beat-em-up developed by Echo Games and published by Coconut Island Studios, where you have to fight in time with the beats of the music. It's something we've seen done before with the likes of Cadence of Hyrule, and in all honesty, it's not something I was even remotely interested in, being as many of you are so fatigued of roguelite titles, but it has to be said, this one's a little bit special. Thanks to the publisher for the review copy. How does it manage to be a punch above its competition? Well, let's find out. Commander Chaos has set his sights on planet Earth, and by harnessing dark beat energy, he sets about dismantling the very foundations of our existence. And just when the poor creatures of planet Earth are suffering and dying, up pops the mysterious Mr. Disco. Of course he does. Who is also from Beatara. Mr. Disco then uses his beat energy to revive all the fallen heroes, of which your players one. These heroes then gradually master the ability to follow the beat, harnessing its power, and they can use it to fight back against Commander Chaos. If you think this sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon, well, it really does, and it plays exactly like it. In terms of gameplay and controls, as alluded to, you must move your character in time with that beat. Interestingly, it gives you 2 control options. On the one hand, you have the more advanced options, which allow the right hand buttons to control right hand movement as well as right hand actions, and then the buttons on the left hand side of the controller can then obviously do the opposite. This allows you to quickly make moves back and forward if you find yourself surrounded by enemies, whereas the basic control options, while they're easier to pick up and play with, you won't be able to pull off quite the same precise movements. You move your character with the R and L buttons, and that will hop you 1 space in either direction. Doing this in time with the music grants you a perfect rating. And your basic attacks done by the A button will be most effective and damaging if they are perfectly timed attacks. There are a number of on-screen visual elements to aid you with your timing, such as this bar which moves away from your character and is positioned perfectly in line with where you'll be attacking. It means you don't have to look away, and also if your timing's not particularly good in terms of just following the music, you can always get back on track by simply looking at this. Using the triggers, you can do a roll in either direction. Initially, this will have a space of about 2 or 3 squares, but can be improved as you go through the game. As with a beat 'em up, you'll face a number of enemies in each screen. Each of them have a very unique way of dealing with them. Some will require you to roll through a projectile and then strike them from behind, while others you can simply wail on. One of my biggest surprises is how well each and every one is designed, and I like the fact they include simple little things like a visual effect on the ground to show you when they're about to attack. There are also a number of exclamation marks above enemies' heads that don't use ranged weapons to give you the heads up when it's time to get out of dodge. If you manage to stay undamaged while timing perfect hits, you'll enter frenzy mode, which increases your overall damage, and as long as you can maintain not getting hit, then this frenzy continues from screen to screen. While doing this and maintaining those perfect hits, sometimes you'll be offered the chance to button mash keys to do huge amounts of damage to a specific target. Or hit back projectiles within the time to the music, and if you can do it just right, you do massive amounts of damage and once again increase your combo multipliers, continue to maintain and build your frenzy mode. Once you've cleared a screen, a container will drop from the ceiling, allowing you to loot the goodies inside. They range from a number of passive and active abilities. Some will change the weapon in your hand. You may change from a close range melee to a long range pistol or rifle weapon. Now the pistols, while giving you the advantage of allowing you to stay at a distance, mean that your character takes a little bit more damage. And the special abilities that you unlock are used by the press of a button, but will have a cooldown. What I really like was that your health is affected by these cards. Much in the same way as dead cells, you may find it potentially has a slightly negative effect on your character, but it's giving you such a large boost to your overall HP, it's worth picking up. There are skills where you'll take damage but do massive damage, and if you clear the screen of enemies with that ability, it will then fully restore your HP. What I'm saying is there's a lot of risk and reward in terms of the design elements, and the risk, reward and difficulty seem to be balanced almost perfectly. You'll notice there are different icons for different areas, and these relate to what's contained within. Some will be standard fights, others will have boss enemies which may offer you a very large reward, and you get to choose which direction you go next. You'll also find shops, some which you pay with the coins you gather, and some which will take your health if you so choose, much in the same way as something like the Binding of Isaac. There are also riddle cards which you'll find that give you a little clue as to how to unlock a secret area within each stage. And then there are the boss fights. These follow the same gameplay mechanics and are very well designed. As the stage choices are random, sometimes you may face a much more tricky boss earlier on when you're not really powerful enough, but for the most part they're designed to allow you to overcome them no matter what weapons or gear you've collected. But obviously there's always that one run where it's so much easier. When you perish, and perish you shall, you'll see the main hub area. From here you can select and unlock new characters, and also spend the currency that you've collected up here to upgrade and increase them so that when you begin your new run, you'll be permanently more powerful. For each run, there'll be challenges going on in the background that you don't really need to pay attention to, but once achieved, you'll unlock new things within this area. It happens very seamlessly, and you don't feel like you're pushing or grinding for these. It just feels like a reward at the end of potentially a brutal slog through some levels. It's in this area you'll also find daily challenges, and later you'll unlock a lab allowing you to research and upgrade. Overall for me, Rhythm Fighters is a very unexpected game indeed. It's incredibly addictive, hugely rewarding for each playthrough, and is a game that will put a smile on your face. There are so many different combinations of skills and weapons, and when you die, you're actually excited to spend that currency and get back in for another run, potentially with a newly unlocked character. If you can get over the fact that it's one more roguelike title, I think you're going to absolutely love Rhythm Fighter. I give gameplay 19 out of 20. While the controls initially took a bit of getting used to as I opted for the advanced control scheme, I think it was an excellent decision for them to include it, as after an hour or so, I was able to quickly flick from left to right, attacking in both directions, and roll and dodge out of the way. I give controls 18 out of 20. In terms of visuals and performance, the game is running at a silky frame rate, although there are times, very occasionally, when there's a lot going on screen when it will tank down. It certainly needs a patch for some areas. Now you may find that you play through 6 or 7 rounds, never experiencing any drop in frames. As I say, for the most part the game runs really well in both docked and handheld, and it's only with very specific weapons that you might notice this, such as the laser rifle, which causes explosions across the whole screen, but it is there. The art style is excellent and reminds me of many of the Saturday morning cartoons I enjoyed as a kid, with it reminding me of something out of Dexter's Lab. But more importantly than the art, and that's the music. And it's fantastic, incredibly compulsive, very addictive. Your toe will be tapping along the entire time, and there's no doubt they've matched the visuals and audio perfectly in terms of the sounds of your weapons, the attacks that you do, and its synchronicity as you play. Both the visual and audio cues tie perfectly together, facilitating the really fluid gameplay. Overall for me, despite a few performance hiccups at times, the visuals and performance are decent. They score 16 out of 20, and the constantly shifting audio track from screen to screen is nigh on perfection for what the game's trying to do. Audio scores 20 out of 20. Rhythm Fighter is an absolute bargain. It's £12.99 or your regional equivalent, and has a download size of just over 1 gig. As with many roguelite titles, depending on how good you are, you could potentially complete it in 2 hours, but you haven't actually unlocked half of the items or gear or characters in the game. The replayability factor is very high. It would have been nice if they'd have managed to implement some form of 2-player mode, as this is a single player only experience, but realistically I think it would have just been too much going on screen. Rhythm Fighter represents great value, and hopefully we'll see a physical at some point. I give value 18 out of 20. Rhythm Fighter is, without a doubt, one of the most addictive games I've played in a long while. It takes my favourite aspects of roguelites, beat 'em ups, and rhythm games, and does each area just right. It scores a SwitchUp score of 91%. So there we have it. Let me know down in the comments, is this one you're interested in? I think the last thing any of us needed was another game to add to our backlog, but for this price, in all honesty, it's not a game I would regret purchasing at all. Thanks to our patrons who support us each and every month. We've had, again, a couple of new ones this week, which is incredible. Do subscribe if you enjoy the channel, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!